Hi, Emma. So I just opened your Snapchat where you compared me to an ugly troll statue and said that it's me. And I hope you know I'm gonna fucking beat your ass. I'm gonna fucking kill you, Emma. I don't care that it's Pride Month and that you're a beautiful, perfect bi woman. I'm gonna fucking kill you. So get ready.
I support you, Emma. Hey, gamers.
What's up?
Yeah.
Happy motherfucking Pride Month, everyone.
Yay.
Also, happy 10th episode of Gay as in Stupid podcast, which, incidentally enough, you're listening to right fucking now.
Woo!
Yeehaw! So, this month's episode is our extravagant special Pride Month episode because we love Pride Month. We gay, we trans, and we love Pride!
I barely celebrate any holidays willingly, so this is all my holidays from all of the year combined into one. This is where my holiday energy goes. I don't like Halloween because of dysphoria. I don't do Thanksgiving because of obvious reasons, and Christmas be like that. So this is where it all goes.
I can you on that because I literally don't give a shit about holidays, and everyone tells me it's one of my worst qualities, so I'm just I literally don't fucking
How
care.
is it a bad quality?
I don't know. Everyone's apeshit for Christmas. I don't fucking know, dude.
I don't know. I'm we're not religious. I'm not a Christian. I've never been a Christian.
Sorry, the way you were saying that, all I could think of was I did not come on my cat. I did not put my dick anywhere near my cat.
I didn't fuck my cat. I didn't come on my cat. My dick has never been anywhere near my cat. God.
Okay. Awful.
So this is one of the only times we'll ever mention Shane Dawson on this podcast. I hope you enjoyed that.
We've done this in 2 past episodes. We've referenced the fucking cat thing.
Fuck, have we? That was when it was recent though. That's excusable.
Yeah.
I had to be on the phone with my boyfriend, and he was making jokes about it at 2 a.m. and I couldn't go to sleep because I was laughing so much. So yeah.
Anyways, enough about
our personal lives. You know what? How was your Pride, Isaac? Why don't you tell us how your Pride was before we...
my Pride was pretty good. Thursday, me and my boyfriend, a couple friends went, and we kind of messed around. We saw Grace and Dolan, which was not a pleasant experience because he moves like a TikTok star that just got released from the factory. And it was really funny, and definitely 100% chance he saw me and my friends making fun of his weird gun motions because we were really close, and I just nonstop. I was like, I think I like women now. I was just it was so bad.
Don't ever say that again.
I'm sorry, but yeah, that was rough. Grace and Dolan, please stop fetishizing yourself for straight women. I know it's what you did because that's who your audience is, but you're an out gay man now, and I promise you can do better than self-fetishation for the eyes of straight women. Anyways, we went Friday, and it was nice. We all danced. Yeah, we just were gay. We danced. There's Milwaukee Pride's kind of super party-y. It's fun, but it's not something
bougie, and I was like,
no. There weren't enough furries this year as usual. It's been going downhill. Amount of straight people has been going up, and the amount of furries have been going down, and that's the worst thing that ever happened. But it was fun while we were there. We had a lot of fun dancing and just kind of walking around and stuff like that.
Nice.
So yeah. It was good.
There weren't any furries at my Pride.
God, your life sounds so sad.
There weren't any. Fuck you. There weren't any furries, but there was some pet play people, which was really unpleasant.
I hate that.
There was also Gritty because I live in Philly, so I kind of consider Gritty a furry because of his little fursuit that he has, and he was flirting with people. He was he was walking down the parade, and he was going over to the barriers and preening and playing with his fur.
I thought you were going to say something else, and I got so scared. My heart stopped in my chest.
No, he was being a little a little nervous, girl in middle school talking to her crush and she's like fiddling with the ends of her hair. That's what he was doing to his like fur or whatever. You know, this long, luscious orange, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still scared the shit out of me. Oh my god. I will say though, out of the couple furries we did see, what? Fuck you. I just processed that and I hope you die. I was trying to tell everyone here about the furry with the giant fucking ass I saw.
Can you send pictures of that to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had a giant ass, Aaron.
Badass.
It was so big, I can't stop thinking about it.
That sounds sexy.
It's not.
We all
it's
know
haunting.
how you feel about furries, so.
Shilong Lang is different. Agent Shilong Lang. He's a
So you just revealed another furry that you think is sexy.
He's just called Wolf Boy, and he has... You know what? I don't have to explain myself to you. He's sexy, and that's that.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Anyway, so this month we are talking about Stonewall because it's the 50th anniversary. And we're talking about, I have a little timeline, so we're going to go over like some of the effects that had on the gay rights movement and around it. I have a little timeline here and I have all my like links for my sources that I put in here that I wanted to talk about. And the last one is just murders in my city. Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about. I don't have furries on here, but you know, we all know how much Isaac cares about them. So if if you feel the urge to bring them up, please do so. I won't hinder you. This is like a safe, open, judgment-free space.
Aaron, you keep criticizing and going at furries, but you know what? The day when it comes...
furries.
Well, you criticize... No matter what is what I'm trying... Excuse me?
You're talking about Yef?
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 Yef? Okay, the 50th anniversary of Stonewall doesn't deserve us yiffing.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Marsha.
Me too.
I'm sorry, Sylvia. So, as most of you gamers know, and hopefully some of you non-gamers, because I need allies, the Stonewall riots took place at the Stonewall Inn in New York because of a police raid, which was one of many police raids on the bar because they did not have a liquor license, because giving liquor licenses to bars with gay patrons was illegal. So they were run by the mafia.
This is like the mafia who ran Stonewall had constant and reoccurring deals with the police, the NYPD.
Oh, yes.
Where they would like be like, this is a time you can raid, because they're like, no one will be here. And the night of Stonewall, the NYPD was just like, what if we said fuck it and just went and did it?
Well, what happened was that they, because there was like police corruption and people taking bribes from the mafia, there was a part of the NYPD that planned the raid, and they didn't tell their like higher ups because of they knew that they were taking bribes. So it was like a secret little thing that they plotted, and then they went in at like 2 a.m. And started fucking shit up.
Like motherfuckers.
So the riots lasted a couple days, and they were not the first riots that we had in our community, and they weren't the first like significant protests, but they did gain a lot of attention, and they were like written about, and they were in like, what was it, like Life magazine? Is that what they were in, Isaac?
Yeah, I think so, if I remember correctly.
I've read about it from a lot of different, like, I think it was Life. And so it got more media attention than a lot of the other things had been getting, and it got more national media attention. So for a lot of people around the country at that time who were in the community, they could like look at this, you know, like one news story that they found or whatever that was typically very like homophobic and transphobic, but they could look at it and be like, oh, people like me are fighting back and people like me are doing something, and see that happening. So it was really important for a lot of people and really important in our movement. And it's why we have gay pride at this time that we have it. So, and there were other little shifts caused by that as well that we'll go into later. So that just sounded really condescending. I can't believe I feel like I just mansplained Stonewall, and I don't like that.
It's okay.
So, sorry, dear listeners. You can click off of this and go back to the penumbra. I won't blame you.
Yeah, me either. Juno Steele's sexy send tweet.
God, he's so hot.
Oh, fuck. We can't get on this or we'll never get off of it.
Juno Steele is the only lady I would fuck. Okay. Peter's pretty sexy too, though. But more in I want to look like him.
Yeah, he's tall, which is a problem in the first place for me.
Is he tall? Is he tall canonically?
Yeah, I mean, he's taller than Juno, and I'm assuming just from how people depict him that he's taller than me.
Yeah. He's either, taller than you, or they're one of those couples, those couples where one of them will be, 5'3", and they'll be like, my boyfriend is so tall. Oh my God, he's the tallest boy ever. I love tall boys. I love sitting in their laps. And then you meet his boyfriend and he's 5'7".
God, shut up.
He's just kind of a lanky 5'7", you know?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Juno Steele topping club is me and Aaron.
And Peter.
Oh yeah, and Peter too.
And Alessandra. But they didn't get that far.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. Now that we're all on the same page about Stonewall. So for gay people at this time, it was a very how do I word this properly? Meeting other gay people is hard to do. You think it's hard now, it's harder then, unshockingly.
It's oh, sorry.
No, you go.
Oh, I was going to say, it's when you read those little HuffPost articles by some millennial twink trying to appeal to younger readers and talk to them about history. And they're back then they didn't have Grindr.
Grindr's toxic and I've written.
Yeah.
That is a gay male specific issue, though. So we're not going to open that can of worms right now.
That's true.
Okay. But yeah, so there is a lot of different ways they went about meeting each other, whether it be through certain types of sorry, I just got all of them jumbled up. I'm which ones were for lesbians and which ones were for gay men? Because they both had similar ways of socializing, but they also had vastly different ways of socializing because of just the way that we view men and women and how they should act and be treated.
Yes.
How society
I was actually just reading a book about, it's the first gay male theory book, and the author was talking about gay bars versus lesbian bars, and he kept saying things he would be so this is what it's like for gay men, and I assume this is what it's like for lesbians, but I don't know any on a community level. I only know them as buddies because they just go to lesbian bars and they don't want to go in our bars because we suck. So but there were also less lesbian bars than there were gay bars. There would be 5 gay bars and 1 lesbian bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a big part of that meeting places were bars. It was a place a lot of the time where they could meet, lead them to whether it be we give them a little look and then they can go off together to fuck in a bathroom, because we think we've all heard the gays fucking bathrooms enough by now. I don't think we need to.
If you've ever seen a movie with gay men in it, there's a scene where they're both peeing and they start looking at each other's dicks. Every single one. They had a scene like that in the TV show Dear White People. That's how pervasive it is.
Yeah, it's literally, you cannot escape that goddamn gay men fucking bathrooms. And like it does have historical truth to it. It was a big meeting place for gay men. I think especially in the UK for some reason, that was like a really big thing. It was
Really?
yeah, I've just every time I've like
Damn.
really like read sources about it, it's like in the UK, like it was like a really, really like very like obvious thing. Like police would be stationed outside of certain bathroom like
Oh yeah.
areas. Like
Well,
in the
they did that here
US,
too.
yeah, but like it was like every bathroom in the UK or some shit for like a
Damn.
weird span of time. Or I might have just dreamed that all up just because I hate the British.
Cis hets really like policing our bathroom usage, huh?
They really do. Just let them fuck, I guess. Yeah, but gay bars are like a big place for the LGBT community to meet. Part of it was because that's where a lot of like drag balls would happen and other things, and they held different events and different nights, and you kind of like became regulars and formed communities of being at that bar. So it was like you were the LGBT community, but you were the community of this bar
Right.
specifically. Because while people would go to many different bars, a lot of the times they frequented the same one because they knew, oh, I know this guy will be here. I know she will be here. I know they'll be here, kind of thing.
Yeah. I
And
think
it was,
another reason. Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. Go.
no, I was just going to say, and it's also a place where because, which in a bit we'll talk about why the mafia involvement was so important to note in the case of Stonewall and with gay bars in
Right.
general, because they were already with those illegal dealings. It was a place for people who were underage who could easily get to as well. So it was
Yes.
like not just this is an adult space. It was this is anyone who makes it their space.
Yes. Which also works with what I was just about to say, which is that it also, because there's been one like very big dividing question in the community, like most prominently in the gay community, because they like to forget that we, the transes, exist. Let's be real. But there's one big like cultural divide, which is that like, are we just like straight people except for what we do in bed, or is like what we do in bed mostly the same and we're not like them in other ways, like culturally, politically, socially? So that caused a lot of conflict. That's caused a lot of conflict in our community and the way that we do like gay politics and in the gay rights movement. So there were places like the Mattachine Society in the 50s that kind of got broken up because of that, because it started off as a much more political organization because it was started by communists.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was during the 50s. So someone like wrote a little thing about them, I think, and was like, they might be communists. And they were like, oh no, people are going to think we're communists. So by then, the organization had ballooned a lot because they would have meetings where gay people could just, of all genders, could just come together and like discuss being gay. And this was mostly a cis gay thing. This wasn't really a trans
Yeah.
thing. But because of that, it was like one of the only organizations like that at the time. So it got really popular and it really, really grew in membership pretty quickly. So then when this hit, there were a lot of members, and it caused this question caused a really big conflict because there were people saying like we should just try to assimilate to straight society and like appease them that way, and that's how we're going to get our rights. And then there were like other smarter people who were like, that's not going to do anything for us and we don't want to. And they also had like an age requirement for membership. I think you had to be like, it was either like 18 or 21, one of the ages to join.
Yeah.
So younger people couldn't get involved. So it wasn't very inclusive of the community on like a ground level, and it also wasn't inclusive of trans people. Whereas with gay bars, you would have gay bars that would cater to that kind of crowd, but then also bars like Stonewall where other people could go and like have their community and have a fun time and like be around people who had the same experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we should probably talk a bit about the mafia involvement with Stonewall and why it's important. So
I want to preface this by saying that this Pride, I've seen a lot of y'all on your little social medias being the mafia said gay rights. So I just want you to know that the mafia was extorting the gay patrons of these bars that they were involved in. They made a lot of money finding affluent closeted gay people and blackmailing them. And they were also really homophobic. They were just yeah, we'll work with the little censoreds because Isaac has to censor things. So he knows what I mean, though.
Yeah.
They're we'll work with them because we want money, but they're, I can't say it, but you know what I mean, Isaac. And they would kill members of their mafia families for being gay and stuff. So the mafia did not say gay rights.
Yeah, I am looking at
first and foremost.
Yeah. I don't know why anybody. I'm just trying to. I can't imagine waking up one day and being I think the mafia liked gay people. But
I mean, be gay, do crimes, but not.
Don't be a class traitor or a community traitor, you fucking idiots.
Don't be a bootlicker.
Literally. But the mafia, during the Prohibition era, they controlled a lot of the speakeasies, which, for those of you who don't know, it's just basically places that illegally sold alcohol. Because alcohol...
So they got good at it.
Yeah, was illegal, and then when it became unillegal, I could just say legal, whatever.
It became legalized.
They still were well, I don't want to go through that paperwork, so we're just going to keep it up. And they were already of a legal status, and they realized there was an untapped, monetary gain they could get from the gay community that nobody else was going into, because, normal legal bars aren't going to risk dealing with those dirty homosexuals and transgenders. That was hard for me to say emotionally. But they're the mafia. They already know. They already have their pockets in so many police and political things. Why not try to get more money out of a group that hasn't been tapped into yet? And
it's actually pretty similar to what corporations do with us, except they do it legally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Aaron was talking about before, gay men specifically were at risk of blackmail. Aaron said before, gay men specifically were at very high risk to be blackmailed by mob overlords because they caught them in their bars, and they would use that to their advantage to continue growing their sick little vile network of manipulating people who are just trying to live.
Also, I think specifically they would probably get more out of gay men than they would they wouldn't have been able to blackmail women like that in the 60s because women were restricted from those positions that men had. So
yeah, exactly what Aaron said. And yeah, I'm looking at an article Aaron actually had sent.
Is it the Vice one?
Yes.
Or is it the other one?
And it's after the Stonewall protests, one of the biggest goals of the Gay Activist Alliance and Gay Activist Alliance and Gay Liberation Front was to get organized crime, aka the mob, out of gay bars. It wasn't something they liked. It's not something they wanted. It's not the gay community was all oh my God, the mob is on our side. They had no other choice. Where were they supposed to go? They had nowhere else to go. They only had these bars.
In 1969, when... Oh my God.
Sorry.
In 1969, when the Stonewall riots happened, gay sex was illegal, I think, in every state except Illinois. So tell your boyfriend congratulations from me. So we really didn't have that kind of power that we had, I think, like economic power because we could organize and stuff and like who we gave our business to. But if we tried to make a movement, like it's not like we could contact the police and be like, hey, like the mafia is like pimping out young gay men and taking advantage of them and like young trans women and participating in these horrible abusive structures, because the police would like do equally horrible things to us and we would possibly get arrested, and then we would have our names be put in the newspapers and lose our jobs and family support and then maybe be murdered. So
if the cops didn't get us before then.
right. So there wasn't a lot that like we could do as a community. So then like in the 70s and 80s, we started like we had the freedom to actually be able to take action against that. And it wasn't a necessity to comply with it anymore. So we started actually doing something. And also in the mid 1980s, the FBI started cracking down on the mafia a lot more. And the main person like that was responsible for the mafia's involvement in gay bars at that time was arrested, I believe. So we had our little freedom.
No more mafia.
The way you said that.
Listen, bitch, my window's open right now. I'm scared if I say something like fuck the mafia or fuck police or fuck police because there's a cop living below me and one of them's dating a cop and my landlord's a cop.
Ew.
I want to fucking...
Wait, aren't your neighbors gay?
My neighbor's gay?
Are your neighbors gay? I thought that they were gay.
No, I live with gays. There's 3 straight women who live below us. One of them's a cop and one's dating a cop, and our landlord's a cop.
Fuck. I thought that they were like woo-la-woo.
No.
I'm so fucking... You have a landlord cop? That's like an intersection of 2 horrible things.
I know. He's on thin ice constantly, and I'm so scared all the time. Not that he's gonna do anything, it's just that I see him and I'm like, I fucking hate you. But yeah. I gotta fucking watch it. I be gay and stupid, but I'm about to get bitched out by my landlord because I said fuck cops too loud on my podcast.
Gayest and yelled at by a cop. Happy anniversary of Stonewall.
Yeah, but I don't fucking know if the mafia is listening. Kat's really Italian. I don't know what she got ties to.
I live in like a mafia neighborhood, so it's not mafia anymore, but like there are old people in it who have ties to the mafia still, I think. And there's like FBI that lives down the street from me.
Damn.
I'm pretty sure.
Aaron, you were in a shit sandwich.
It's an old Polish neighborhood, okay? You guys know, what do people know from Philly? You know Rocky. There's mafia in Rocky, right? You know what things are like. You know our history. So, the mafia. There are also places around that time, gay bookstores started popping up as well. And the first one was the Oscar Wilde Memorial Bookshop. I think that's something along the lines of the correct name. But that was in New York, and it was started by Craig Rodwell, who did not like books. But he was a gay activist, and he wanted like a community space where people could come in and like find material that was about their lives and stuff that wasn't pornography or didn't have like peep shows in the back of the store or whatever, and where like young people could come and like be okay being like outside looking in the windows like you do when you're a young gay and you're like, do I go in? Do I not go in? Do I go in? Do I not go in? So
that was me when I was at Stonewall over spring break.
God, I can't believe you went. Icon.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about that later in your experiences there.
Okay.
So he started that, and it was really successful, and like it became kind of a community space. He was also he dated Harvey Milk at some point because Harvey Milk was in New York, and they had like a little affair. And then some shit went down, and Harvey Milk left. But later he was like, oh, I want to do something similar. So he opened his camera shop in the Castro, which became a similar space for the gay community there. So yeah, but then after that gay bookstores started becoming more common and like popping up in a lot of the big cities. There's one in my city, Philadelphia. It's called Giovanni's Room, and it was established in like the early 70s, and it's really nice and I love it a lot. Most of the gay bookstores that started did have like a pornography section, and didn't stick to the little no pornography model, mainly because, for instance, when the Oscar Wilde Memorial Bookshop opened, he was like, no pornography, and I'm only doing gay books, which at that time meant like gay coded books, explicitly gay books, and like books by gay authors. And I think he had like 25 books in the store that he could sell.
Jesus.
So, yeah. So a lot of stores also had some like pornography and like pulp fiction and stuff like that, so that they could like turn a profit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It makes me sad.
I know. I have that amount. I have almost exactly that amount of gay books. Probably a little bit more now because I went shopping since I last counted. But I have almost exactly that amount of gay books in my house. And I have them all on one shelf. And they're sitting there. And sometimes I look at them and I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Don't realize how small number 25 is until you see books on one shelf.
Yeah. There's like a tiny little collection of books. I have my like Eminent Outlaws by transphobe Christopher Brand. I have Fun Home. I have Red Azalea. I have Two Boys Kissing. I grew some metaphorical balls. Yeah. Anyway, so Craig Rodwell actually was one of the guys that organized the first gay pride, because he'd been doing this thing called the annual reminder prior to gay pride, which was also in Philly, where they like picketed Independence Hall on 4th of July and were like, rights for homosexuals.
Yeah.
But it was very cis and like heteronormative. Like the men had to wear suits and ties and the women had to wear dresses, and they were going and like trying to look as hetero as possible. And this was mainly because of this other guy. I really should have pulled up the thing so that I had his name right here when I was doing this. But there were a couple people that organized that.
Yeah,
and one of them
saw.
Do you have it?
I don't know his name. I've seen a documentary during the LGBT Film Festival in Milwaukee.
Oh, nice.
About him, and I just cannot remember the life of me the name.
It's like a Kameni something, I think.
Yeah, but like,
yeah,
it covered a lot of like those protests and about how like it was like, yeah, you have to be like the strict dress code and how you were going to act and what you were going to say and hold yourself was like so.
Right.
Yeah.
So they had rules like no like physical contact, and this is what you have to wear. And during one of the later ones, a little bit before Stonewall happened, there were these two women who were like, it was supposed to be single file, and they broke the rule of it being single file to hold hands while they were picketing. And the guy who organized it like tried to break them apart and was like physically trying to separate them, and they wouldn't. So kudos to them.
Honestly,
queens.
Lesbians are stronger than any of us.
So after Stonewall happened, a lot of activists in the local community were like, oh, so when we do things, it gets results. Interesting. Maybe we should do more things.
Funny how that works. LOL.
Yeah, and there was like a smaller group of them that got together and organized the first gay pride in New York, and had that happen. And it was still a protest, but it was louder. People were allowed to make noise, and there wasn't a dress code, so people could dress however they wanted to.
Gay rights.
Yeah. Gay rights. Woo! Pretty much like directly after Stonewall, when people were realizing like, oh, this big thing happened, and like, how do we utilize this for our activism and for gay rights? Pretty much like as soon as that started happening, they also started excluding trans people from that movement and excluding sex workers from that movement and non-white people and people who were lower class, because even though they were realizing that they had to actually like come together as a community and like make noise and stuff, they were still like, oh no, our images. And trans people didn't fit into what they wanted to project because they were still othering us and still saying like, oh no, like, you know, we might be gay, but we're not that. Like, that's not who we are. So in recent years, that's changed a little bit. Like the way that we recognize Stonewall has changed. And there's been more like mainstream articles and recognition of the trans people who were involved with Stonewall, particularly the trans women who were involved. And there's just been more like people just casually saying, like, just casually recognizing these women and like talking about them and like taking it for granted as fact, which it should be. And since that's happened, there's been a lot of like, or not a lot of, I guess, but a infuriatingly large amount of backlash of then these like white cis gay people writing articles and you know making little speeches and stuff and writing little books because they're able to publish their books now because of us, and you know saying things like, oh, the trans community is just trying to like take over our concept of pride, and the trans community is like trying to push their way into this thing that's ours, when really like the real like founder of pride is like, and they'll list like Craig Rodwell, who I was just talking about, or like Harvey Milk, and they'll talk about these like white men while completely ignoring like the community and completely ignoring like the facts that we know who the patrons of Stonewall were, and we know all of the activism that trans women have done for this community. Like, we have all of this shit written down and documented. It's not like speculation, it's not like opinion, like this is fact. And they have been getting like the same way that cis people will anytime that the trans community gets a little bit of respect or recognition for anything. They've been getting offended, they've been getting worried, like, oh, there's not going to be a place for us in our community because they're transing pride now. They want to trans everything, the frogs, the children, gay rights.
I do understand from like a completely historical point of view, a lot of people with a lot of events throughout all of history, people will say they were places when they weren't. And that happened with a lot of like gay people when Stonewall happened, because like there's so many people saying they were there, but we have like records of how many people were actually there that night, and they don't match up. But we do know things for sure, like who was there. And they're people Aaron and I are going to talk about in a couple of moments, and people who we have mentioned. But specifically for Stonewall in the case of the trans women, it feels like everyone is a lot more aggressive about like, oh, but people made things up, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, that happens for every historical event. Like, shut up. Anything.
Right. Like, what? Why aren't we talking about the fact that they like made a movie about Stonewall based entirely on a fictional like white male protagonist who they inserted into the story and like made it center around him? Like, that was pretty made up too, y'all. That was pretty made up too.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of a basic little name to throw out there, and I was gonna say Harry, but then I remembered Harry Hay, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that to him.
So there are a couple big figures at Stonewall that we've either mentioned in the past, or we're going to bring up right now, that like kind of are generally widely by everybody with a brain cell accepted to be kind of the leaders of that riot. I'm going to start with a butch lesbian named Storm, and she was being arrested by the police at Stonewall and was fighting back with them and arguing and kind of like getting mussed up and roughed up and stuff. And that moment of her getting kind of like roughed up by the police and her like showing resistance to them is kind of what sparked the rest of the bar to kind of get up in arms and like being like, wait, this can't happen. Like that, her getting arrested and treated like this and everybody standing and watching it, it kind of snapped them into action to be like, fuck this, actually.
Yeah.
And she was awesome. I love her.
Yes.
Yeah. Just wanted to throw her name out there because it's not a good Stonewall talk without her. I'm just trying to bring her up because she was a Black butch lesbian, and they are also erased like trans women a lot. Because a lot of people, while trying to erase trans women, specifically trans women of color from Stonewall, are erasing them, but then they also erase the actual like woman, like lesbian, like Black lesbian from it.
Yes.
And it's like, cool, so you're just racist and transphobic because like nobody denies that like Storm's like involvement in Stonewall. No. It was so important.
And her involvement in the community and like how much she meant to people. I'm going to post some pictures of her on her account after this episode comes out because I've seen like pictures of her like as an older person, which I think is really important for us to see of LGBT people. And also she was just super badass. So
yeah, but she was constantly fighting for lesbian bars. She worked as a bouncer several years at lesbian bars. She was constantly... Sorry, I just read that she was legally armed. She was legally armed, and she just went and protected all lesbians within the village. She was regarded as like the lesbian protector of lesbian spaces. People would describe her as like a superhero, literally because of the way she would protect lesbians and lesbian spaces and women. Yeah, I just wanted to bring her up. Okay. Miss Major, donate to her if you hear this, which if you're listening to the episode, you will be.
Okay. So I'm going to go over that in the end of the episode and also so that you guys know, because when we're at the end of the episode, I'm going to look up her specific information and read it out loud, and then I'm going to put it in our links. So keep an eye out for that also, because she has done so much amazing work with trans activism, and specifically with trans people, not in the larger gay community, because she got so fed up with having to deal with cis gay people because of this exclusion that she started working on mostly with trans people. And one of the other things that she does, because she was involved in sex work most of her life, and so she works with people doing that, and she works with people who are struggling with addiction and substance abuse. And I personally really admire the way that she does that as someone who has been around that kind of thing, and has like knowledge of it that is personal to me. I really admire her commitment to helping people who have those problems, and the fact that she will offer help to them and not like force them to come in like clean and sober to get things like food, to get like support with their lives, which is really important, because you cannot break the cycle of addiction if you're doing that. So I think that the way that she does things is really admirable. And I want her to be in charge of everything. I want her ideas to be used everywhere. But I also don't want her to have to work, because she has done so much with her life, and she deserves a break.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to talk about Sylvia Rivera, who I also really love. I had a t-shirt with a quote from her on it, but then it got lost right before Pride Month.
Damn, that's the worst thing that ever happened, I think.
Yeah, so Sylvia Rivera was at Stonewall, and I think she was 17 when she was at Stonewall. So she was really young. Right. And yeah, that's like my age, because I'm going to be 17 in a few weeks. And I can't even imagine being as badass as her. So, she, one of the reasons that she's really important beyond her involvement with Stonewall, is that she and Marsha P. Johnson, co-founded the activist organization STAR, which was Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, and a home called Star House. And that worked with young gay and trans people who were homeless and who were getting in trouble with the police. And she would like support people in our community who were being thrown in prison, who were incarcerated, which is something, if you've listened to some of our other episodes, something that's still a really big issue today, with especially with police profiling the trans community and the way that we're treated in prison. And it's something I feel really strongly about. So her activism was really, really important at the time. Yeah. And the reason that I'm bringing her up is because she was very violently pushed out of the movement. I'm saying too much. She was very violently pushed out of the movement. If you've seen a video of her speech, Y'all Better Quiet Down, it's very famous. Not as famous as it should be, but it's still very famous. And she's on stage and she's telling these people in the audience, like, she's like, I've spent my entire life in this movement. Like, I'm fighting for your rights and this is what I'm doing. Why aren't you helping me? Like, why aren't you doing something? This is the reality of what's happening to us. And they're all like booing her and yelling very violent things at her after she's had to like literally like fight her way up to the stage to have access to a microphone to speak to these people in her community. It's a very, very powerful video if you watch it. But after the rally that this was at, it had like a really big toll on her, and she broke down and left the movement for like 2 decades. And while still like struggling with homelessness and drug addiction, like those problems didn't just go away from her, you know, but she also lost access to this community support as well. And so I wanted to mention that because I think that that is something that happens to, especially to trans people on a smaller scale all the time, is that we get involved and we seek out like this community that we need, and we try to help other people in our community, and there's just this wall of rejection. And it's, you know, it's getting easier now. A lot of things have gotten easier since 1970, but I still see the negative effects of it happening all the time. And in my city, there was a trans woman who was murdered recently, and this is the 6th trans woman who has been murdered in my city in 6 years. And she was very like loved by her community. But there's this problem, like it feels hopeless living here because every year you're like, oh, there's like the annual murder, right? And every year we get together and like talk about it and try to do something, or at least like raise awareness for it. And it keeps happening. Like this is the 6th year that it's happened. That's like longer than I've been out, you know. It keeps happening. And meanwhile, the city gets to push this very like progressive liberal image and like pretend that it's a very safe place for us, when in reality, you know, it's a very safe place for like white men in the community. And I am including myself in that because like as a trans man, the discrimination that I get for being trans is much more on like an institutional level than it is with, say, like street harassment and things like that, because of the privileges that I have. But I'm living here, so I'm surrounded by this imagery all the time, while meanwhile this very real problem is going on. And, you know, you just can't help but think like, oh, like, would this still be as much of an issue as it is? Would this still be as silenced as it is if cis gay people had included us in their activism from the beginning instead of pushing us out of the movement that we started. So just some food for thought.
Yes. Good words, Aaron.
Corporations
Corporations are exploiting you
Um,
during Pride Month if you're gay or trans. Corporations don't actually care about you. Corporations don't fucking care. They're just stealing your money and using you for profit. So stop acting like the fucking Twitters of your favorite corporations are woke because they're fucking being like Uber
Literally.
Eats. Like, ooh, look, we made the trans flag out of fucking macaroons. Like, eat shit.
Yeah.
Donate money, assholes.
I have some good articles that we're going to put in our further reading that go into this. As well as I also have good articles about the other stuff that we've talked about that I'm going to put into this, because our episodes tend to be more of like an overview. But corporations take advantage of our community's like susceptibility to addiction and substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want fucking like big tobacco out here like slapping little rainbow stickers on
like
things.
vodka
I don't
bottles.
Want the like rainbow
absolute
it makes vodka.
Me so
violently
angry to see.
The beer companies, like I do not want that anywhere near Pride. Pittsburgh Pride a few years ago was renamed by a fracking company. They called it like EQT Equality March or something. Because fucking Pittsburgh. And everyone hated it. And this year they removed the name, but I think that they were still one of the sponsors. They just weren't like the big sponsor. They also had Iggy Azalea perform at Pittsburgh Pride one year, which everyone hated because they were like, she's racist and homophobic. And the people who hired her were like, well, if she was racist and homophobic, I don't think she would have performed at Pride. So, and then after that, the year after that, they got someone who was actually like an LGBT ally or something, like someone who was doing good things for the community, but she was really famous. So tickets were really, really expensive to see her. And I think that Pittsburgh Pride is like on the street, which was another big issue with this, because people were like, we're paying like $45 to $100 to watch someone perform in the street. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, so there's been a lot of buzz about corporations at Pride this year. There's even been some alternative prides. Like in New York, there's an alternative pride. I think it's like a queer liberation thing, they're calling it. And I think also in Pittsburgh, they had an alternative pride. They had like a people's pride, which already happened. We did not have one in my city, but what the gays in my city do is that we go to the parade that's free and then we just hang out instead of going to the festival. So, because the festival sucks. So you can see a lot of us after Pride kind of milling around in either the beginning or the end of where the parade is. One of the biggest issues of corporations at Pride for me is that they are not, being allies or whatever the rest of the year. I'm like, if your corporation is paying all of its employees a livable wage, like not minimum wage, an actual livable wage, and, your corporation is actually like treating its LGBT employees fairly and its non-white employees fairly, and, giving like its little like having like benefits for their transgender employees and stuff, then like, yeah, sure, like go to Pride, like have a thing, sponsor it if you're actually putting in the work the rest of the year. But most of them are not, and it's just an advertisement opportunity for them. Like they go and they like throw their little, literally like just actual advertisements out at you and hand them to you, and it has like a little rainbow on it, so they're like, it's gay now, we love you. And then the rest of the year they're like, fuck you. Like I think Chick-fil-A had like a rainbow logo for Pride this year, so that kind of just encapsulates everything that I feel about that.
Something that sums it up really well for me, it's like on the same note as the whole like that stuff. YouTube had a rainbow flag, but YouTube's never once gave a shit about its LGBT creators and them getting censored and removing
Never.
their content and letting like people put like anti-LGBT ads on their videos. YouTube doesn't fucking care. And they had the audacity to be like, "What up?" No, I think it's
Yeah.
all bullshit. The only time I take like these past years, if I go to Pride, I'm like really into getting free stuff, but like I've been really careful about who I'm taking it from, and I only take it from
Oh
like
yeah.
LGBT organizations. They're like little like wristbands and stuff. I'll only like take pens from them because I'm just like I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable with them feeling like they're doing something just because.
I'll take stuff from like the
Yeah.
churches. Do you
Oh,
get
we have so
churches
many
at your
churches, and
Pride?
everyone there is so nice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Because they're like actual
Yeah,
LGBT people most of the time involved with those. And they're like coming in to like spread positivity for LGBT
yeah,
religious
and I think
people.
that's really important. Like, I've never been religious, but like, I've gone to like the stands and stuff with some of my friends who like are religious, and have been like have struggling with it and have like struggled with the relationship with the church, but like it means a lot to them. So like, I think it's important that they're there, and like if they want to give me their little
Yeah.
like "God loves you" sticker with the rainbow on, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, churches are like free, especially small
Yeah.
churches. You're fine. And the
Yeah.
other thing I wanted to add about corporations is I know some like business majors.
I guess I
I
can
know,
make
but
an
like I know for a
exception.
fact, and like I've talked with people who like have taken classes in the business school, and have been in like LGBT courses, and like business schools and marketing classes literally teach the students about the rainbow tax, and not in a negative way. Like they teach them it as like a good marketing tool and how like to utilize it to best get money out of the gay community, the LGBT
Yeah.
community, and it's super fucking gross. And I'm like, eat shit. Hey everyone, it's free to do a Google search to see if a corporation that's selling like Pride merch is donating 100% of their proceeds from their Pride collection. There's a couple of them that do it. Like I know American Eagle does. That's the only one I can think of that does 100% off the top of my head. There's like three more I think that do 100% of the proceeds. And I refuse to buy from anyone who does any less than 100%.
Also, like, you don't want to, like, a company can be like, can say they're gay positive and like donate to gay charities and still be participating in things like
Mm-hmm.
cultural appropriation and violent racism and like exploitation of their employees. And like, that's not an okay thing to participate. Like, don't give them your
Make your
money, you
own.
know? Like, yeah, whenever people do things like that, it's like there's intersections in our community, you know? Like, you can be gay and also be black. And I think that, I mean, you know, I'm probably not the greatest person to be talking about this because I'm very, very white, but it's just so infuriating to me to see people being like, oh, well, like the police can be allies, cops can be allies to the LGBT community. And I'm like, no, they can't, because our police system literally evolved from groups of people who were hired by slave owners to hunt down runaway slaves. So they can't be anything good, and that's that. But also, like, there's still like
Bad.
the police are there's still a huge police brutality issue in this country against like non-white people and against trans people, which is just ignored. And so you have these like white cis gay people being like, oh, well, like all my interactions with the police have been positive. And I'm like, you can't invite them to Pride. Like, that's alienating like at least half of our community,
Yeah.
probably more than half. Like, it's disgusting. And the fact that there are people who are choosing pigs over our actual community members and their safety and their comfort is so vile to me.
Also, this is something that happened this year at Pride that I'll like specifically talk about. Past years, it's something I've noticed too, just being out and about and what I've heard from like other people. Cops have never once protected anyone at Pride. It's really there for just like control in
Never.
case us dirty homos and transes do something. But like this year at Pride, my boyfriend and I were walking in, and there's one of those people who was screaming that we're all sinners and we should die and we're dirty like bleeps.
Yeah.
And there are two cops very close, and they're just sitting there having a conversation, and they don't care. They're there to make and so we're doing it, and then this older butch black woman comes up, and she starts like standing between this like adult man who's trying to intimidate younger people from going into Pride and make them feel shameful and disgusting and dirty. And she's just standing there and like blocking him, like not physically touching him or anything, just making sure he can't get closer to these younger people. And we kind of stayed and watched for a little bit because like I got nervous because the police approached her and they told her to stop. They told her to stop protecting. Yeah, they like tried to get her to back off and stop. She wasn't physically touching him. She was just standing there telling him, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Do not talk to them like that.
No police at Pride.
Literally. And they walked away for a while once another black butch lesbian came up and helped out the other woman in blocking the younger people. And like it just like made me really angry. I was just like, these cops just like are like, they're like, oh, cops are there to protect us. And I'm like, cops are there to protect not us. Like they went in immediately. The only time they took any action in that situation, a completely non-violent situation, was protect somebody who was doing harm to the community, who was trying to, what's the word, provoke us. And
there's been several instances of that this Pride too. Like there's been like the cops like walking Nazis through Pride parades, like protecting them. And like last Pride in Philly, which is where I live again, I didn't go because this was my first Pride this year. But last Pride, they like arrested a trans woman for burning I think it was a Blue Lives Matter flag at Pride. And they arrested her for it. And the like Philly socialists had to bail her out. So
keep pigs out of fucking Pride.
It's ridiculous.
Sorry, I cut you off. Just keep fucking pigs out. We don't fucking want them.
Literally. The only kind of pigs I want to see there is if you have like a little pet, like little pot belly, and you're walking it through with like a little gay
unless it's a literal pig
that
dogs. Can do no wrong other than be rolling in mud and still be cute. I don't want it.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap this episode up. Make sure to donate to Miss Major's retirement fund if you have some money to spare. You can find, there's like a Facebook group for this. It's called Miss Major's Monthly Fundraising Circle. It's on Facebook. I just said that. So you can go look at that for information and linkies. And I will also put them in our post for this month, as well as some more articles on Miss Major herself and police brutality, and corporations at Pride and the exclusion of trans people from gay activism. And I will also put a link to Sylvia's speech for those of you who have not seen it.
Yeah, so donate to Miss Major. In that post also this month, our recs are going to specifically be for LGBT people you can support, like through their arts and stuff like that, like smaller. That's what we were doing, right?
Yes, people making like little merchandise or art, music, smaller creators. Because that's
like smaller artists that might have Patreons or Etsy's or whatever that you can go and support LGBT people making LGBT like stuff for LGBT people and put it back in the community and motivate them and help them keep alive because
it's tough out there. It's tough out there. Also, like, being not a cis het is expensive. Being trans is very expensive, because insurance just does not cover our shit a lot of the time. They made Isaac pay like an exorbitant amount for his
$2,000 for my nipples. They made me pay $2,000 for my nipples because my insurance told me they weren't necessary. Nipples aren't necnecessary.
Did you get your money's worth on your nipples?
I didn't, because the first time I almost ripped my nipple off, and I came out of the shower like crying, like, guys, I almost ripped my nipple off. And then like maybe a couple months ago, if any of you follow me on Tumblr or Twitter, you saw me go like, hey guys, just pop my nipple like a fucking.
You heard all about Isaac's
my nipple
nipples.
Fucking popped. She's fine now. But like, God, I hate it.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. It's expensive, so we're going to be supporting the community this Pride Month and after.
Yes. Because next month is Gay Wrath, baby, and also my birthday.
But yeah, we didn't say our usernames yet. Tumblr is gayasinstupidpodcast. Go reblog our post. Our Twitter is gayasinstupid. Follow us, interact with us, spread the word. You can find us on iTunes or YouTube or Spotify. One of the places you're listening to this right fucking now. No, we're not. Spotify? I meant to say SoundCloud.
Okay, we're not on Spotify, although there are podcasts on there. But we are not one of them.
Isaac, and I am gay as and stupid.
But you can listen to Ezra Furman on Spotify. Listen to Ezra.
I'm just gay and stupid.
Same here.
Everyone. Bye.
Farewell. We'll see you next month. Send us little episode suggestions if you have them. Send us, I don't know, tell us where you get your merch.
Also, before we go, we are recording this on June 22nd. Happy birthday, Yosuke!
Oh my fucking God.
I love you.
Yeah.